Good evening. Welcome to the show. I'm Regina Lay.
I'm Pauline Verzosa.
And I'm Sean Yao.
Tonight's big stories. Where is Alice Guo? The big question may have been answered by Senator Riza Ontiveros, who presented immigration documents today showing Guo had left for Malaysia as far back as July 18. Senator Raffy Tulfo also believes she fled via chartered flight.
But Guo's lawyer, attorney Stephen David, insists his client is still in the country. David told One News he just spoke to her last night and she reassured him she's still in the Philippines.
And yet another collision at sea between the Philippines and China, this time along Sabina Shoal in the Spratlys. The Philippine Coast Guard says 2 of their boats were damaged.
Good evening. Social media is on fire over news that broke just this afternoon. Alice Guo, who has of course become a household name by now, being the subject of a large manhunt, is apparently already in Malaysia, according to Senator Riza Ontiveros. Ontiveros presented Guo's immigration records in a privileged speech this afternoon, saying Guo, also known as Guo Huaping, arrived in Kuala Lumpur on July 18 using her Philippine passport. From there, she supposedly went to Singapore to meet with her parents Lin Wenyi and Guo Jianjing, who supposedly flew in from China July 28, 2024. Ontiveros said it seemed like a reunion because they were also with Wesley Guo and Cassandra Ong. Wesley Guo is allegedly her brother, while Cassandra Ong is the representative of the raided Pogo Hub, whom attorney Harry Roque assisted with PAGCOR. How Guo was able to escape when she's on an immigration lookout bulletin is the subject of several ongoing investigations is, as Senator Ontiveros says, a travesty.
Who allowed this travesty to happen? Sinong may kagagawa nito? Hindi makakaalis si Alice Guo kung walang tumulong sa kanya ng mga opisyales ng pamahalaan. Para tayong ginisa sa sarili nating mantika. I have always believed that legislative hearings are policy-driven. Kaya nung nag-announce na ng ban ang Pangulo, sabi ko, we have done our jobs. Let law enforcement take the lead. Pero paano kung ang law enforcement mismo ang kailangan imbestigahan? What if they drop the ball? Paano kung sila ang dapat managot? Nangako ang BI sa akin at sa Senate President pro tempore na hindi nila hahayaan si Guo Huaping na makaalis sa Pilipinas. Yun pala, wala na talaga siya. Mr. President, kung hindi po natin ito gawan ng paraan as an institution, as a country, parang nagpasampal tayo sa dayuhang ito na paulit-ulit ni sinaula ang ating mga batas, patakaran at proseso.
Senator Raffy Tulfo thinks Guo could have chartered a private plane. He himself is convinced Guo has fled. Tulfo said the Bureau of Immigration does not have a processing center to monitor all the passengers of chartered flights.
Walang processing center. Pag ikaw ay isang pasahero, gustong pumunta ng abroad, sakay ng isang chartered plane, hindi ka nadadaan sa proseso, hindi ka nadadaan sa immigration, diretso-diretso ka na sa gate, sakay ng limousine mo, SUV, and then pagdating sa tarmac, aakyat ka na sa aeroplano mo, and then here comes the CIQ, Customs, Immigration, and Quarantine. At kung yun ay kasabwat ni Alice Guo, madaling makakalusot dahil walang CCTV na dadaanan. I'm very sure ito ay lumabas through a chartered plane, through a private plane. So all we need to do is tanungin natin kung matitry siyang kung sino, ano mga private plane ang lumabas o chartered plane ang lumabas that very day.
When the news broke, we at One News began asking our sources for more information. One of our government sources said, and I have to emphasize, this is preliminary info, that this is the route Guo took. From Denpasar, commonly known as Bali, Indonesia, she flew to Kuala Lumpur, Malaysia on July 18 via Batik Air 177. From KL, she flew to Singapore on July 21st via Jetstar Asia 686. Then from Singapore, she took a ferry to Batam, Indonesia on August 18. There was no trace of her departure from Manila, not even CCTV footage, which Senator Ontiveros slammed.
Mukhang sanay itong si Guo Huaping. Maybe this is not the first time she did this. Dahil kung i-enlarge po natin yung photo dun sa ipinakita kong slide kanina, hindi po na-capture ang image niya dun sa CCTV. So dumaan or idinaan siya sa spots na hindi mahuhuli kahit yung video image niya. So baka may nagturo, tama po si Sen. Grace, baka may nagturo sa kanya at hindi lang dito sa immigration natin, posibleng sa immigration ng iba pang ASEAN countries.
Despite Senator Ontiveros' evidence, the Justice Department believes that the expelled Bamban mayor may still be in the Philippines. Undersecretary Nicholas Felix T. says that they have not received any information that Guo even attempted to fly out, as per records from the Bureau of Immigration. T also pointed to the motion that her team filed last week to dismiss her human trafficking case, which was notarized on August 14, which meant she should have appeared before a notary public on that day. Undersecretary T says there have also been reported sightings of Guo by law enforcement agencies. And another person who insists that Alice Guo is here in the Philippines is her lawyer, Stephen David, who spoke to our sister program just this afternoon. David says there are a number of reasons that he believes she hasn't left, chief of which is that he spoke to her just last night.
Pinapaniwalaan ko naman na nandito sa Pilipinas si Mayor Alice for three reasons. Number one, katatapos na niya mag-under oath sa isang abogado na sinasabi niya na nandito siya sa Pilipinas. Eh kung hindi totoo yun, ang laki problema nung nag-certify na yun, di ba?
Abogado.
Number two, malakas naman ang tiwala ko sa ating immigration. Alam nga namang hindi nila malaman kung lumabas siya ng Pilipinas o hindi. Tapos number three, siyempre yun ang assurance sa akin ng aking kliyente na nandito siya sa Pilipinas.
Okay, let's make it clear though that when Attorney David was asked how he spoke to a former Mayor Guo, he said over the internet. So
I listened to it twice, to the interview twice, and he said over the internet. And as we know, if over the internet, that means through chat apps or social media apps.
Could
The
be
other
from anywhere.
party could be anywhere, right? And even if you use local SIMs now, there are ways to reroute it, right? To
you
make
have
it
a VPN.
correct. There's phone VPNs now where it could make you seem like you're dialing in from somewhere when really physically you're somewhere else.
Right.
So for me, that's proof of nothing.
Yeah.
As much as the fact that she said she reassured him that she was still here. I mean, I don't know how much weight I should put on that, but also the third point that he said that she swore on oath before a lawyer. He was talking about the motion to dismiss the human trafficking case that they filed last week. He said that she should have appeared before a lawyer to notarize that document, but he himself was not there, so he did not witness it happening. And my question is, did she really appear before the notary public? Because these days, a lot of notaries public allow non-appearances
Yes.
na. We know this for a fact.
Yeah.
So,
However, we did have Senator Sherwin Gatchalian who kept insisting that in terms of yes, all notary publics should be requiring personal appearances. By anecdotal practice, I think we can pretty much say that it's not being followed.
all people who run for public office in the Philippines should also be from the Philippines, but well, what can I say about her case? DOJ spokesperson Miko Clavano also said they are looking into it. This is a case of national significance. If it is indeed true that Alice Guo has left the country, a thorough investigation is needed to hold those responsible accountable. This is not a light matter because, a lot of people are tuning into the story because it's salacious, it's gossip. But really, what it also underscores is the flaws in the system. If she were truly Guo Huaping and an outsider, a foreigner, how was she able to get past all of these?
All the way up to
So-called
how was she able to leave the
guardrails.
country if indeed she is not anymore here in
According to Senator Tulfo, chartered flight is the answer. Before we get carried away, let's now try to get more information from Presidential Anti-Organized Crime Commission spokesman Winston Casio, who joins us live tonight. I don't know if that's over the phone, via Zoom. Good evening, Sir Casio, Mr. Casio.
Hi, good evening, ladies. And I'm just as shocked as you are.
Okay, I guess that answers my first question. Did you know? what happened to all the pieces of evidence you've gathered? What happened to closing in on the case? What happened to the paper trail, Mr. Castro?
Well, for one, we're still trying to verify the source of information that the good senator, that the good lady senator got. Apparently, the information was obtained from the National Bureau of Investigation, and we're trying to get their confirmation as to this particular information. Because I'm not in the Philippines right now, but before I left the country last Friday, I had a talk with our friends from the Bureau of Immigration and other law enforcement agencies with regards to the filing of additional charges against Mayor Guo. And we were assured that she was still in the Philippines. There's still no immigration record over here of her leaving the country. So up until today, officially, I would like to still believe that she's still in the Philippines.
But these, I mean, all the pieces of evidence presented by Senator Risa Ontiveros, are you already following up on that with your counterparts, or at least with the immigration counterparts from Indonesia, from Malaysia, from Singapore? Those are 3 countries, supposedly.
Yes, ma'am. Around 5 p.m. local time, where I am now, I contacted our counterparts with the different countries that were mentioned. So apparently, the Malaysian attaché, the Malaysian immigration officials have confirmed that an Alice Guo arrived in Kuala Lumpur on July 18, coming from Denpasar or Bali in Indonesia. And she was not the only one supposedly who arrived. Other members of her family supposedly arrived as well. Wesley Guo. By the way, Wesley Guo is also a, how would I say it, a person of interest. He's got an international immigration lookout bulletin order also. So if it is indeed true that these 2 individuals have left the country, then it involves, well, it demands an investigation. But then again, let me qualify. The Malaysian officials stated that although the passport of Alice Guo was used, there was no physical confirmation of her entering the country. Maybe it's because, well, I don't know. Maybe because she was not captured through the CCTV or what. She was not even captured through the physical confirmation of her entering Malaysia. It's still being investigated as of now.
So the Kuala Lumpur leg of her escape route is confirmed. Can you state that again, please?
Yes, confirmed as to document passport. Alice Leal Guo entered Kuala Lumpur on the said date, July 18.
Okay.
But the Malaysian officials stated that they could not provide pictures or CCTV footages because there were none that would show that she entered Kuala Lumpur on that particular date.
But the scan of her passport, of the passport of the
Yes.
Alice Guo that went into Kuala Lumpur, it was Alice Leal Guo, July 12, 1986, that one, with her photo on it.
Yes,
You
that
saw
much was confirmed by the Malaysian authority that I had a discussion tonight.
Okay.
Okay.
And then the next legs of her journey, Kuala Lumpur to Singapore, July 21, via Jetstar Asia Airways. I wonder if you had any information on that too.
He was not able to confirm that. He was not able to confirm that. So at this point, all that I could confirm is this, that our Malaysian counterpart confirmed that a person by the name of Alice Leal Guo with said passport entered Kuala Lumpur on July 18.
Right, pero,
Nothing beyond that. I could not confirm anything beyond that.
Okay.
Okay, Sir Winston, the issue here is the no trace of departure from Manila, which some authorities are holding on to. You know, perhaps she's still here. What do you think? Is she here? Is she not here? Because there is no trace of her departure from Manila. What are we doing to try to track that down? If indeed private flight, chartered flight, private plane, do we have any means of, I don't know, checking up on that?
Yes, we've been burning the phones since the good senator made her privileged speech this afternoon in the Philippines. Personally, I've been making the rounds of calls to all our counterparts, foreign and local. But the official line is there is no immigration record that would show her leaving the country. But I could not definitely say that she's still in the country. That's why, if indeed, if in the next few hours or days we find out that she has indeed left the country, then we need to launch an investigation as to how this happened, because she should not have been able to leave the country in the first place. And if Wesley Go already left the country together with her, then we would have two individuals that should have been on immigration lookout bulletin that have left the country yet that should not have left the country yet were able to leave. So that would demand an investigation.
Can we confirm lang again with you, sir, no? Tama ba? Sabay umalis, supposedly, ang Wesley Guo and Alice Guo from the Philippines, or sabay silang dumating sa Malaysia
Or at
as per
least
the
I think
documents?
It's the arrival because there's no
The
trace of
arrival,
departure.
yeah.
I think it's the
Sabay
arrival.
sa arrival.
No. I could not confirm that they left at the same
Yes.
time,
So-
arrived at the same time. What I could confirm is a person by the name of Alice Guo with a said passport entered Kuala Lumpur on July 18. Whether that is the same Alice Guo, I am not able to confirm that at the moment.
Senator Rafi Tulfo himself believes that Alice had chartered a private plane to get out of the country. He's convinced that this is what happened. He talked through a new steps. If you were to charter a plane, you go straight onto the tarmac from your SUV up to the plane. You don't have to go through immigration. And he said that the main issue with chartered flights is that there's no central processing center by the Bureau of Immigration. Do you know this to be true, that there's not one central processing unit for all chartered flights in the Philippines?
I would not be able to confirm that there is no one central processing unit for all chartered flights, but I could confirm that in the past, unscrupulous individuals or individuals who have criminal records in the country have been able to leave via this mode. So this is one area that we in the government should be able to look at, because this is a how would I say it, a black eye on all of us if indeed she has left the country.
Anong liability ng chartered plane company here? If it is indeed proven that she had fled via chartered flight.
Well, for one, although a case has been filed against Mayor Guo, she has not yet been officially charged, given that there is no resolution yet as far as the Department of Justice is concerned with regards to what we have filed against her. So, wala pang resolution doon sa isinampa naming kaso. So, likewise, there is no precautionary whole departure order that would prevent Ms. Guo from leaving the country, right? So, all that we have is an immigration lookout bulletin order, which demands that if a person by that name, Alice Del Guo, presents herself before an immigration officer, the immigration officer is duty bound to inform the Commissioner of Immigration, and consequently, the immigration commissioner is also duty bound to inform the Secretary of Justice. But if indeed she has not gone through the immigration process, then I hate to say it, the captain the captain of a chartered flight, assuming she flew through a chartered flight. We may not be able to file a case against him because there is nothing that would hold Ms. Guo in the country in the first place.
At least legally, you mean?
Yes, legally, yes.
Okay. Sir Winston, mukhang alam na natin, and being that you are dealing with the organized crime, I mean, I think private flights should be closely monitored because I think that's one vehicle, you know, that criminals use to get out of the country. My question is, how much help would she have needed from officials na madadawit para, you know, may kakuntsaba ba siya para makaalis ng Pilipinas? Or could she have done this secretly, less people knowing?
Well,
Yeah.
the senators themselves say, for sure may tumulong. You can't organize an escape like this without people high up helping you.
I'd like to agree with the good senators that an escape such as this is a great a magnificent proportion. I'm almost out for words for what has happened, assuming she's not in the country anymore, right? But we have to conduct an investigation because this is very frustrating. The commission, our agency, has been at the forefront of the cases that were filed against her, and we're still preparing a good number of cases against her. So if indeed she has left the country, we will still look for the other avenues that we may have legally, internationally, diplomatically to get her back, to be able to get her back. But ladies, I just hope that I'm still praying to the Lord Almighty that is still here, that this is just a fake news.
Mr. Casio, hope is not a strategy, and I'm sorry to ask this, but we do have to press you. This is a national issue now. Is this not then an indictment on the intelligence of PAOK, that this very high-profile suspect, okay, maybe she's not been formally charged, but there's a slew of cases being filed against her that she had, was potentially able to leave the country. What does that say about your intelligence capabilities?
Well, for one, the whole country, I guess, knows that there are only 52 PAOK officers in our particular agency. What makes us a bit unique is we've got 41 law enforcement agencies that we coordinate with. So if indeed she has left the country, then we'll put ourselves before the public bar of opinion. At the same time, allow ourselves to be investigated how this happened. But this would involve a huge investigation, not only as far as the PAOK is concerned, but the other law enforcement agencies as well. But again, we're open to an investigation, assuming that she has been able to leave the country indeed.
Okay.
Sir Winston, you did mention you are at the forefront, PAOK is at the forefront of this investigation. It's been frustrating for you with this revelation, but what are you certain of at this point? And how will this revelation change the case that you are building against the dismissed mayor?
Well, for one, I guess most of us won't be able to have a good sleep tonight because we're still doing everything we can to be able to look at this particular news. But what we know so far is if indeed she's out of the country already, then I'm sorry, but if indeed she's still out of if indeed she's out of the country, we'll have to do a thorough investigation.
Okay. Veering away, just one last question, Mr. Casio, just veering away very quickly from Alice Guo. I wonder if you had any intelligence as well on the other very wanted fugitive, si Apollo Kibuloy. Do we know that he's still in the country?
Now, with regards to Apollo Kibuloy, our agency is not working on his particular case. That is being handled by the Philippine National Police and the National Bureau of Investigation. We're limited at this point to all crimes in relation to the Philippine offshore gaming operations.
Okay. Fair enough. I know it's been a very trying day. We thank you so much for taking time out to speak with us. That was Presidential Anti-Organized Crime Commission spokesman Winston Casio. Getting buried a little under today's breaking news about Guo is the Philippines and China once again figuring in a collision, this time at Sabina Shoal in the Spratly Islands. Rio Fernandez has the details.
Another flare-up at sea barely 2 months since the Philippines and China pledged to de-escalate maritime tensions. And once again, both sides blamed the other over a collision along Escoda or Sabina Shoal in the Spratly Islands. The China Coast Guard released a short video of the encounter early Monday morning, showing the Philippine Coast Guard vessel BRP Bagakay sailing side by side a China Coast Guard ship. The China Coast Guard said the BRP Bagakay ignored repeated solemn warnings and deliberately collided with one of their vessels. China also accused the Philippines again of intruding into its maritime territory. The Chinese foreign minister also called out the Philippines' efforts to maintain the BRP Teresa Magbanua, which has been stationed in Sabina Shoal since April.
The Philippine side has sent a marine police vessel to intrude into the waters of Sabina Shoal in an attempt to resupply the Philippine Marine Police vessel stranded there in order to realize its long-term presence. This move by the Philippine side seriously infringes on China's sovereignty, seriously violates the provisions of the Declaration on the Conduct of Parties in the South China Sea, and seriously jeopardizes the peace and stability of the South China Sea.
But for the National Security Council, it's the China Coast Guard that should be blamed for the collision.
That short video does not tell the entire story, no? It's a spliced video, it's a misleading video. It again shows China as the benevolent actor here, no? Allegedly, they were conducting a law enforcement operation controlling the movement of the two ships, when in fact, it was not 4410 or BRP Bagakay who ramped 21551, it was the other way around. 21551 in truth ran our vessel BRP Bagakay 2 times.
As proof, the Philippine Coast Guard released photos of the damage on BRP Bagakay. One other PCG vessel, the BRP Cape and Hanyo, was also subjected to the CCG's aggressive maneuvers, which left a hole in its deck. The PCG said this is the first known incident of China's aggression along Sabina Shoal. It's also the most destructive so far, but thankfully, there were no casualties. Experts say China may be employing the same tactics they did to counter past resupply missions to Ayungin Shoal.
To deconstruct yung tactics doon sa Sabina Shoal, pareho lang naman sa Ayungin Shoal eh. Yung Teresa Magbanwa, yung BRP is actually yun yung parang Sierra Madre eh. Kasi naka-steady na siya ron eh. Right. Ang nagsusustain sa kanya, yung dalawang Coast Guard vessel na mas maliit. So, ang ginawa ng China ron, ang tinitira niya yung nagsusustain, yung logistics component nung presence natin doon. In the like manner na tinitira niya palagi sa Ayungin Shoal, yung resupply boat. Okay? Kasi kung matira niya yung logistics component natin, eventually, mapipilitan tayo i-pull out si Teresa Magbanwa pag naubusan ng fuel yan o naubusan ng pagkain yan.
Meanwhile, the United States has thrown its support once more for the Philippines. Ambassador to the Philippines Mary Kay Carlson said, quote, "The U.S. stands with the Philippines in condemning the China Coast Guard's dangerous maneuvers near Sabina Shoal that endangered lives and caused damage to PCG vessels. We are committed to supporting the rights of our friends, partners, and allies under international law." Former Senior Associate Justice Antonio Carpio insisted that it's time to file another arbitration case against China.
There's really no reason why China would intentionally ram a Philippine Coast Guard vessel. None at all, because there's freedom of navigation there. And it's so far, it's over 20 nautical miles from the lagoon itself. That's very far. That's beyond beyond a territorial sea if Scottish Shoal is a high tide feature. So this is deliberate. This was ordered from somebody up there in the chain of command of their Coast Guard. And we have to respond appropriately. We have to, the best thing, since Coast Guard is a civilian vessel, this is now governed by UNCLOS. It's unlike Ayungin Shoal, which is a military activity. This is a civilian activity. We can go to UNCLOS and sue China for damages, and the tribunal will reaffirm that is part of the EEZ, and that will again debunk China's 10-dash line. So we have to do that because what China fears most is there will be another arbitral award.
At the same time, China has lodged a diplomatic protest against the Philippines over the presence of BRP Teresa Magbanwa in Sabina Shoal. The Philippines, on the other hand, has repeatedly insisted on its rights to deploy a vessel in the area, which falls under our exclusive economic zone. For News 5, Ria Fernandez, We Are One News.
The health department has detected the country's first Mpox case for 2024 over the weekend. And to be clear, this is not the first Mpox case ever in the Philippines, but the first this year. From July 2022 to December last year, 9 Mpox cases have been recorded in the country, all of whom recovered. The DOH says the patient who tested positive is a 33-year-old male with no record of travel abroad. Contact tracing has been initiated on the patient. This new case in the country comes less than a week after the World Health Organization declared Mpox as a global public health emergency, the second time it's done so in 2 years. Mpox infection leads to flu-like symptoms and pus-filled lesions, and it is usually mild but can be fatal to people with weakened immune systems. We're taking a quick break, but coming up, a recent finding said the learning gap among Filipino students could be as much as 5.5 years. We talk about this alarming number from the report's source himself, EDCOM2 Executive Director Carol Mark Yee. Don't miss that conversation. Keep it here.
Welcome back. You're watching Big Story here on One News.
A World Bank study has estimated that the learning gap here in the Philippines is 5.5 years. Now let's put that into context. 9 out of 10 Filipino children aged 10 struggle to read and understand simple text. Some incoming grade 9 students also find basic addition and subtraction difficult as they head into lessons involving advanced algebra. Suffice it to say that new DepEd Secretary Sonny Angara has his work cut out for him. Let's dive into this. We have tonight EDCOM2 Executive Director Dr. Carol Mark Yee. Mark, thank you so much for coming.
No, pleasure to be here, and I'm glad it's getting the attention of the media and everyone in the country about how grave our situation is.
We could sit here for 3 hours
Sure.
and not run out of things to talk about, but we don't have that time. Can you tell us, based on your year 1 report, what seems to be the top 3 problems that are actually actionable? Because sometimes when you think about it, you kind of get analysis paralysis. Kasi ang daming problema.
Right.
But what are actionable for now?
I think 3 things that we have updates on already in the work we've done in the past 1.5 years. The first is teachers. Our teachers could not teach because they're saddled with so many other responsibilities. When you go down to the ground to talk to teachers, they say, "Sir, we cannot teach. We're handling gulayan sa paaralan. We're doing school-based feeding program. They go to the markets. They cook.
They
have
do
to.
a lot of
They have to
paperwork.
weigh students to check their weights. They have to be the ones to check for 4-piece attendance, everything. So they could do everything but teach. And second is that the data that we found on our teachers is that 64% of them teaching high school did not finish the course that they're now teaching. And so how do you teach something you yourself do not understand fully well? Which aligns with the data we found in 2016, that there was a World Bank study that tested them based on the content knowledge of teachers on lessons that they teach themselves. Most of them scored 30% low. 30%, as low as 30% in those same assessments that they administer to their students, so teachers. The second is textbooks. In our year 1 report, it's about 400 pages long. But the text, we found out that once we collected all of the data from DepEd, that in the past 10 years, only grade 5 and 6 students had complete textbooks for all subjects. Everyone else had a sprinkling of 1 or 2 textbooks, but everything else, none. Despite budget being allocated for it, 7 billion since 2018, only 900 million was utilized. And the third is lack of coordination. We cited in our year one report that DepEd, CHED, and TESTA, they sit in about 68 interagency bodies. Interagency Council on Antimicrobial Resistance, Design Advisory Council, Boy and Girl Scouts of the Philippines, but nothing specific to coordinating on education concerns. So those are the critical things that really need to be addressed, and we're glad that things are moving.
So to recap, that's three things:
Yes.
teachers, textbooks, and
Coordination.
lack of coordination.
Governance,
And under
yes.
teachers, there's two
Yes.
subgroups,
Yes.
sub-problems, which
Yes.
is number one, teachers are saddled with too much
Yes,
to do, and
admin
number two,
tasks.
a lot of them are not
They need-
actually trained
Yeah,
in
they
what
need
they're
to teach
teaching.
what they studied. Yeah.
And they didn't. Okay.
Is
Yeah.
is money the solution to all of this? Is a bigger budget? Because, as you know, education
Yeah.
by law takes up the biggest chunk in our annual budget, and every year it's growing.
And it has been allocated. One, utilization needs to be fixed. We checked the data, and the 27 billion was unutilized just from DepEd resources alone in 2023. And then when you look at it, actually, in the past years, it has doubled. Our spending on education per student has doubled. But we've put more of our resources in higher education. Meanwhile, in countries like Vietnam, they spend the most on grades 1 to 3, which are the foundational
I'm going to
years.
go there because
Sure.
I was looking at your report. I did not read all 400 pages, but I did see some things, certain things. We spend around $11,000 per student here in the Philippines.
Cumulative.
Vietnam's, cumulatively, and Vietnam spends $13,800. So there's a $2,800 difference. Not that big according to
Yes,
EDCOM.
yes.
And yet they managed to beat Malaysians in math.
Right.
What was different with
Yeah.
Vietnam and how they spent that money, and what do we do wrong with spending the
Yeah.
money that
So
we
it's
have?
not just the amount that you spend, it's when you spend it. So they spend a lot on early childhood education and then grades 1 to 3. In all of the studies all over the world in the past decade, it shows us that if you invest in early childhood, students score higher. In fact, they scored 32 points higher in mathematics in PISA. They tend to drop out less, and they tend to achieve more later on in life. But we spend the least on early
That's
childhood.
a great point. So instill a love of learning early on, which to me as a parent makes
Yeah,
total sense.
for sure.
But tell me, the requirement for formal schooling here only starts at 5 years old. Is
Yes.
that early enough?
For kinder. So this is, I mean, it's real. It's more feasible for a country like us, no, to start at kinder. And this was, I worked on that actually when I started in the Senate in 2012, the Universal Kindergarten Education Act. We've made a lot of progress. It's a good step, but we really need to fix the early years. We don't expect everyone to attend early childhood, like 3 to 4 pre-kinder. But what we do need is nutrition, and also parents knowing what they need to do at home for their children. I was talking to Ateneo faculty last week, and I asked, you're all faculty members, experts in your own field, who among you have kids, and who among you know what you need to do at home for your children between age 0 to 4? Very few raised their hands. I think it's a national concern. Parents, rich or poor, need more resources, need access to information as to what they need to do to take care of their children at home. And I think money's not just the issue here.
Because in general, I think the mentality is, by 5 we have to send them to school, and then
Yes.
that's it. The school will take care of
Yeah.
the math, the science, the English,
Yeah.
everything,
Yes.
right?
Meron ako favorite na explanation eh. Hindi, 2 years old, baby pa yan. Di pa
Exactly.
niya, we hear that a lot. 2 years old, di pa niya kailangan mag-school.
But then also, so that's the issue with the public side. On the private side naman, the private pre-nursery,
Yeah.
pre-kinder schools are expensive.
Are
So then
super
a lot of parents like me are thinking, is this even worth it?
Yeah.
Is there a point to sending
Yeah.
them so
Yeah.
early?
Yeah. But ironically, we've had the law since 1978 saying that there should be at least one daycare per barangay. In 2013, there was another law that we worked on, the Early Years Act, which was supposed to universalize access to early childhood education. Each barangay is supposed to have a child development center. So whether or not you could afford it, there's actually a facility supported by government
And
to
to be
be
fair-
able to provide that.
Right, Marco. To be fair, there are certain,
Some.
some they call it daycare, diba? Pero
Yes.
nagkakagulo din because there's no set curriculum or guidelines. The teachers kind of just do like motherly things, right? What they
Yeah.
think is correct,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
It's essentially babysitting.
Yeah.
Yes, but so there is actually there's a national early learning framework developed by the ECCD Council, but the
What
challenge
happened to it?
Well, the challenge is really manpower. We did not put our money where our mouth was. You say it's universal, but when you look at it, there is not a single training program for daycare workers and teachers in the country in the past 10 years, despite us saying that's so critical. All of them, 89%, are non-permanent. Their average salary is 5,000 pesos a month, and some of them, 20%, earn 1,000 a month. I mean, what do you expect if you put so little?
All right, Mark, still talking about teachers. You
Sure.
mentioned earlier 62, 64%?
64, yeah, for high school
64%.
teachers.
High school teachers,
Yeah.
and most of them didn't even major on the subjects that they're teaching students. So for other Southeast Asian countries, is that what they do? Are teachers majoring on the subjects that they teach?
Of
That's why it's
course.
effective?
Yes, yes, of course. In education, what's important is the relationship of the teacher with the student and the teacher's relationship with the content, what he or she will teach. Because if that relationship is weak, what will you impart? No. Which is why for high school, it tends to be universally accepted that they should specialize in content knowledge. Actually, in other countries, what they do is you need to finish, like the most successful countries, you need to be a math major and graduate in math and then take education units. What's happened to us is they learn something else and then teach something else. Actually, if we go on TikTok, we found in science, for example, 50% of our science teachers did not study sciences.
The third problem you outlined, the lack of coordination
Yeah.
between the different agencies, wasn't that legislated before?
Actually, I wanted to ask you that. So
Yeah.
we did also ask this question to
Yeah.
Senator Win last week.
Yeah.
Just on Friday, actually.
Yeah, just on Friday. Because EDCOM
We're
won,
suki.
okay? Because this is such a big issue,
Yeah,
and
it
I can
is.
see that this really affecting us in the
Yeah.
years to come, and possibly getting worse. So EDCOM 1 said, let's divide it into TESDA, into DepEd, and into CHED.
Yes.
Now you're telling me that
They should have been together all along.
I mean, would them being together still, had it not been for EDCOM 1, would that have helped in terms of coordination?
No.
Okay, why not?
Because it's such a huge monster of an agency
Right.
that it's so hard to keep tabs on everything because you have so many different concerns. The concerns of higher ed, like you're looking at doctorate programs and then you're looking at kindergarten programs, those are two distinct concerns. I think what EDCOM 1 also recommended in the 1990s was the creation of a National Coordinating Council on Education, which was never legislated. The mechanism by which they should coordinate after they were divided into 3 agencies did not happen.
Is that the cabinet cluster that PBBM just approved?
That we presented to the
Yeah.
president, and we are very grateful that he saw it. So he sat there and he said after our presentation, our discussion, okay, this is so important, let's resolve this. Our problem is we don't have a system. We have things happening here and there, but it's not a system. We need to fix this. And he said that he was going to sign it immediately and issue the executive order to create this. If you saw our Year 1 report, our title was Miseducation, the Failed System of Philippine Education, because that's really the root of it. Everything else is just symptomatic to that. There is no system, and therefore we're not delivering quality education to our students.
What's this new cabinet cluster for education going to solve? Give us a real example.
Like, for example, bullying. One of the things that we highlighted in our report and was in the airwaves last week was bullying. We are the bullying capital of the world. Highest prevalence of bullying
wow.
based on PISA findings for the past 2 runs since 2019.
We haven't seen that report.
Oh, I will send you.
Yes, please.
We have
Yes,
5
please.
studies from LaSalle that confirmed it, highlighted the differences. Cyberbullying is one, but actually physical bullying is the most. In DepEd, when we got the data, from 2013, the data was about 1,000 plus bullying reported cases that went all the way to the DepEd Central Office. It went up to 20,000 by 2018. Cases of bullying is the worst in the Philippines. And when we looked at it, they're relying on a guidance counselor to do the job, but actually there are no guidance counselors.
There's not enough.
There
I
are
read your report.
4,600 vacant positions of guidance counselors. And when we checked it again using CHED data, you don't have enough schools offering it. You don't have graduates actually in the past 5 years. In Regions 4B and Region 8, not a single graduate. And yet they had hundreds of vacancies. So one is under DepEd because they're the ones who are supposed to hire the guidance counselors. And then who's supposed to offer is under CHED. Then you have state universities that were funding free tuition but not offering these programs also. So it's really a system that is not working together.
So with the cabinet cluster group,
It's supposed to happen.
okay,
because
you
one of-
can take on an issue like that,
Yes, yes.
divvy it up for the different levels.
Yeah. So one of the 2 things that I'd highlight is one, they're supposed to craft a national education and workforce development plan for the next 10 years.
Yeah.
And they should align their budget and their targets year on year to this plan
Yeah.
so that there's continuity in the reforms because it will take a long time for us. There are no shortcuts to fixing the system
Right.
that has not worked for decades. The second is they're supposed to craft a human resource in education plan. So they should have spotted, or now we should spot, wala pala tayong guidance counselors, wala pala tayong daycare workers and teachers that are trained. We don't have pala experts in educational measurement. We lack SPED teachers. So all of this will be studied exhaustively and then
Right.
planned cohesively for the next 10 years so that we could invest in those people.
This is going to be even
Sean
harder.
is right. We could sit here 3 hours.
Yeah, but
And talk
at
about all
least
the
changes,
issues, yes.
changes happening.
Usually, when you
That's
say
right.
you can throw money at a problem, this is
That's
not the
right.
problem that
No.
you can throw money
Yeah,
at.
yeah.
Well, thank you so
It's
much
hard
for
work.
taking the time out to share
thank you.
the truncated version of the 400-page one-year report of
I'll
EDCOM 2.
I'll be glad to come for a longer version.
We will definitely check back in with you
Thank
on
you.
any further developments. Thank you so much. And
Thank
the
you.
EDCOM 2 Executive Director, Carol Markey.
Thank you.
A quick break for now. Right after that, we will get to know one of the women behind Carlos Yulo's extraordinary success at the Olympics. We will be speaking with his occupational therapist, Hazel Kalawad. When the big story returns, keep it here on One News.
Okay, welcome back. You are still watching Big Story here on One News.
Well, Carlos Yulo's double gold medal haul in Paris 2024 is truly a remarkable feat for any athlete. But as he himself pointed out, he had a whole team who worked with him tirelessly for years to get him in the zone. And one person who's been credited with keeping him in tip-top shape, both physically and mentally, is sports occupational therapist Hazel Kalawad. She was hired by Gymnastics Association of the Philippines president, Ms. Cynthia Carrion. And over time, she was able to personalize a training system for Kaloy using science and technology. A PhilStar article says Kalawad also worked as a therapist for UFC fighters, Under Armour athletes, esports players, and now, of course, she can add Olympic gold medalists to that resume. And we wanted to find out more about her coaching system, so we invited Coach Hazel herself to be here with us tonight. Welcome to the Big Story, Coach Hazel.
Thank you, Miss Pauline.
Fresh from Paris, right? Did you just arrive last week? All right. First of all, congratulations on the gold medals of Carlos Yulo. You were a huge part of that victory for Kaloy. Tell us all about your journey with Carlos Yulo. How did it start, and how exactly did you help him?
Okay, so at first, I was mainly in charge of providing him soft tissue occupational therapy, which entailed providing him tune up for his muscles, tendons, ligaments, giving him injury prevention exercises. And then 2024 is when we became more on point and like intensive and full-time in providing him what he needs. So as we were doing training camps in other countries, we were able to delve into helping him fix his biomechanics. It also evolved in providing him data science services, because I do believe that even if you're every day you're doing training but you're not able to keep track of what you're doing, it's going to be difficult to see how you're progressing or where to spot the patterns are that you need to fix in order for you to really focus on fine-tuning in an elite athletic level.
So there's a lot of science that goes into it, right? But what I wanted to point it out was the maturity of Kaloy in Paris. It was so different
surprising, really, in a good way.
And she interviewed him many years ago.
Yes, 5 years ago.
She was the one who pointed out the transformation to us.
Kaloy was shy, right? And even in competition, his confidence wasn't really, in full display. But in Paris, everything was different. And Describe how when you first met Kaloy and how he transformed into the gold medalist he is today.
When I first met Carlos, he was definitely a bit more within his shell, and now that you've seen him, I can describe him as he has more fighting spirit in him. He definitely feels more in tune with God because he's more prayerful, and also the way he understands himself and his emotions. It's more scientific. It's less judgmental in oneself, and he has more of a structure on how he's going to go about his daily tasks, monthly tasks, and his life.
Coach Hazel, tell me exactly how you help Kaloy. I mean, we know on paper you're supposed to be his occupational therapist, but on your IG bio, on your work IG bio, Mind Coach Hazel, you describe yourself as a mental health coach, sports coach, neuroscience, wellness, and social relationships. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Now we can see how this together, working together, all these metrics being hit can lead to double gold medals. But exactly what tweaks did you do with Kaloy's program? What was his day like?
Okay, so, well, this is the thing. Because my weapon or my tool is my mouth and my knowledge, maybe for a person that doesn't understand a service provider like me, it may not be as seen immediately. But in terms of the research that you put into providing the right approach to elite athletes, these things that I describe myself are very powerful because especially if you're talking about neuroscience, if we're talking about the brain, if you feed the right neural pathway in a person's brain, that unlocks a lot of good chemicals that can help boost the performance of an athlete. And again, it's how I am as an occupational therapist is holistic because I understand that if there are different dimensions in a person's life that aren't able to be aligned in what a person should be doing, then the focus and the concentration will also be off because there's a malalignment somewhere in a person's mind or in a person's heart. So that's also something that I monitor with Carlos. Other things that I described were, I also help with the stress and anxiety management, providing a positive and collaborative approach during training because I understand that, as an athlete, you already have a lot on your plate. You have to be 24/7 on point. So if an athlete is receiving negative feedback from the coaches, then that's another added layer of stress and anxiety that the brain of the athlete is going to process, So providing a positive approach to handling anyone, even in the workplace or anywhere else, really just takes out a layer that is unnecessary in order to get the growth that you want out of this person. So my job is quite interconnected, but basically what I try to do for Carlos is to see what else is not there and then to personalize the approach in order to provide the best care possible and in order to make sure that Carlos has the right tools that he needs, even if he has a small team.
What did you have to say to him, for instance, after the pommel horse fall?
I guess when that happened to him, I know that gives him more motivation to keep going because.
So you know him to be like that he gets inspired by his own, so to speak, failures or mistakes.
Or is that something you had to teach him?
At first, what I understood from what we've discussed together is that sometimes it makes him go back to his shell. But because of course you want to be able to perform properly day by day, right? And you don't want to make mistakes because that's your job. But if there's someone guiding a person, okay, hey, it's fine. Look at this data. Even if you're not able to do this, example, there are 6 apparatus, and then he fell on one. But if he's going to see like, okay, I didn't do well here, but I can still do well here, I can still do well here, then the judgment of himself about what he's able to give as an athlete doesn't destroy the mind and destroy the performance, because he understands that it's just one little part of a big thing.
Yeah. All right, Coach. Heidelin Diaz was one of the first Filipino athletes to really voice out and push that it's crucial to have an entire team if you want to be an elite athlete winning gold medals in the Olympics, right? Having a nutritionist, your coach, a psychologist, the whole village, right?
The whole package.
The whole package. So heading into Los Angeles, do you think each of our Olympian should have that blueprint, that same formula, having an entire team?
I would highly recommend it, because I mean, if the athlete already has the drive, the athlete is disciplined. Of course, there are athletes that need more like motivation and like discipline. But if you see athletes that are really like always hungry to provide a good performance, why not employ all these people and see where they can go, Because so this is how I think of it. If you're an athlete, you're already thinking about your performance. You're already thinking about how hard the training was today and how heavy the physical training is today. And you have to manage that with your feelings, because the next day you're going to be so sore, but you still need to train very, very hard. So, and then if you don't have like people like psychologists or other or people looking into your nutrition, that's another layer of thing that you need to think about. Whereas if that was given to an athlete, then like, okay, the athlete will just have to focus on the performance and everything else will be properly aligned for this athlete, and the athlete will be able to perform the proper job description, which is, please perform your very best and we will take care of the rest.
There you go.
You're right, though. I think your work and all of its facets is still quite misunderstood here, because we're not so developed that way. But one of the things that caught my eye was your biomechanics system, wherein as part of his training program, you would every day work with him to figure out which muscle group needed to be activated specifically for that training. That is so advanced. Talk us through that.
Okay, so yes, as my involvement in preparing Mr. Yulo going to the Olympics, the situation also needed to have that type of input, because gymnastics is all about biomechanics, technically. All the angles, the form. If you do gymnastics and you're going to be judged according to the code of points of gymnastics, a simple 15 degree of angle of deviation is already 0.1 out of the
You're talking about the execution score.
Yes. So of course, in order for an athlete to be able to get the proper like alignment and proper shape and proper force in order to produce a skill, you need. For me, what helped the process is that I love human anatomy. So example, Mr. Yulo would form a triple twist. And then I would see, oh, okay, during the landing, your landing is quite parallel to the floor. You should have a diagonal spine in order for you to reduce the risk of moving forward. And example, he went like this. Oh, okay, your gluteal muscles didn't fire properly, or your hamstring muscles didn't fire properly during this time. So please, the next round that you do that, coordinate these muscles, coordinate that muscles, breathe in this direction, breathe in this pattern, and then try to coordinate all those, and let's see what's going to happen.
That is so fascinating.
Yeah, it is. The world of science is fascinating.
It just helps athletes become so precise, right? And that's what you need when you're competing in the Olympics.
Yes.
Okay. And Hazel, did you also have input with regard to his diet, what he can eat, what he can't eat? At that level, I mean, can't he just eat anything and burn it all off in training anyways?
I think in the part of our preparation, there were little things that were also needed in order to make sure that the nutrition is on point. So in a sense, the diet support or the nutrition support from me came from like if Mr. Carlos would say, okay, I really feel fatigued today here and there, and then and I would say, oh, okay, maybe Mr. Carlos needs more supplementation. Hey, why don't you ask your nutritionist if you can take more amino acids, because I know that amino acids are also needed for brain concentration as well as muscle repair. Why don't you ask your nutritionist if you can take this and if it's okay? So I will just give him like science and research evidence here and there in order to get the nutrition more more on
precise
point.
as
Yes.
well.
Yeah, for performance.
Okay, well, we're running very quickly out of time, but I just had one last question for you, which is
Okay.
very quick, which is
Ms.
what's next
Regina.
for you? Are you also have you been getting calls from other would-be Olympians?
Someone trying to pirate you.
people who want to reach the Olympics and said, well, she's got the answer. I want some of that.
Currently, I haven't checked my messages.
Okay,
I'm sure you've been bombarded as well. I mean, you're all over social media, so I'm sure you're getting a lot of messages. Okay, but keep us posted.
Thank you. I will.
It's so exciting what you guys are doing.
It is exciting. The new world.
Of sports and
Sports science.
merging sports and science and technology. Essentially, she's using data science as well.
Amazing stuff.
All right, well, thank you so much for joining us tonight, Coach Hazel, and congratulations on the double gold victory of Carlos Yulo, and of course, his victory is also as much as yours. Once again, we just had sports occupational therapist Hazel Calawon.
And of course, we have run out of time. That's it for the big story tonight.
We are One News, all sides, all the time.
That's it. That's a lot for Monday. Thank you for tuning in, staying with us. Have a good night.